Everyone has a love-hate relationship with Destiny. Me, you, your grandma, your grandma's dog. That's pretty much Destiny's defining characteristic at this point. So close to greatness that you can smell it, but will never be able to touch it. It's like a strip club, but instead of women and titties, you're enticed with the promise of a better game. Destiny will never be the MMO that we and the developers themselves want it to be, and it's all Bungie's fault. Bungie's core philosophy itself is what inhibits their own goal, and they don't even see it. Catering to the casuals in order to get more players is the antithesis to every MMO I've ever played. They're in their own way with their own foot in their mouth, and they're completely oblivious to it. With that being said, I don't mind the game appealing to casuals. I don't mind the player base becoming larger. I'm in full support of that perspective, actually. Casuals are what keeps the game running. Casuals are the ones that keep expansions rolling out. Simple enough. But don't claim you're an MMO if you're not going to do MMO shit. You're setting an expectation that you'll never be able to meet, and that, I feel, is Destiny's biggest problem. I've come to the realization while playing RuneScape of all games. I've also dabbled a little bit in Final Fantasy XIV. Destiny is touted as an ever-expanding and evolving world, but it doesn't feel like it. So I started to ask myself why. Narratively, it does fit that description where the story actively progresses every week. However, in practice, the same recycled horde mode with the new mechanic immediately takes me out of the evolving world aspect that Bungie is trying to build, but that's a whole nother video for another time. The seasonal model needs to be analyzed and picked apart in greater depth in its own video. Anyways, back to RuneScape. One of the biggest reasons I believe Destiny doesn't feel like an MMO is the fact that the two M's in that acronym don't really apply to Destiny, like, at all. There's nothing massively multiplayer about the game in the first place. It's just online. I decided to make a new character in the old RuneScape because I wanted to actually play an MMO again. Destiny doesn't quite scratch that itch. As soon as you're dropped into Lumbridge in RuneScape, you're smacked in the face with vendor after vendor after vendor, and you're immediately crowded in a sea of people doing their own thing. For the first time in a while, I actually felt like that I was in a world with other people that was actually its own living and breathing thing. Then it hit me. Destiny doesn't have a giant social space. It's just a tower, which is nice, but it isn't enough to call yourself a massive multiplayer online game. Patrol areas, which is the closest thing you can get to any kind of freedom in Destiny, are barren. You come across the occasional player in an area, and there are no vendors, maybe 2 or 3 on the entire planet. After a given season, they immediately become obsolete anyway. Pretty much glorified tree stumps that speak to you when you walk by. We don't really have the in-game social interactions that's needed to fit the bill they're trying to convince us of. Hell, sometimes I can't even join the tower with my real-life friends in their fire team 90% of the time because the tower is full. Yes, very MMO-like. Giant social spaces so you can show off your gear and items is almost a requirement of an MMO at this point. Yes, I already know what people are thinking right now. Lightfall is supposed to change all of that, offering ways to LFG in-game after 7 years. From what I've seen, as per usual with Destiny, it's a step in the right direction, but still a ways to go. It gives you a taste of what the game should be, but blue balls you by the end of the night, like every Tinder date I've ever had. There's no meaningful player interaction either outside of partying up and shooting the same enemies. There's no trading or meaningful currency to share. The core components to make an MMO feel like an MMO are non-existent. You hop into Final Fantasy XIV and you get to Gridania and you're suddenly with dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and you suddenly feel like you are part of something. In Destiny, on the other hand, you launch from one barren destination to the next. I can already foresee another criticism of this video. MMOs don't have to be as big as open world MMOs. To that I say maybe that's true, but if you call yourself an MMO, you're going to be compared to them without mercy. If you don't want to be compared to the best of the best, then stay out of the kitchen. Don't call yourself a boot if you aren't prepared to get down and dirty in some mud. Secondly, Destiny is lacking in a way that I can't exactly explain with words, but I'll try. There's a few levels of thought that I have to jump down to get to it, so bear with me. There isn't really a way to meaningfully and reliably prepare for big in-game activities. In RuneScape and Final Fantasy, for example, when there's a new raid, dungeon, or large multiplayer activity, you prepare by making food, armor, or leveling skills. Those things alone encourage even more social interaction due to the fact that trading exists and you can have someone else do it for you, or you can do it all yourself. Either way, it's something more to do. Something to do that feels meaningful and doesn't rot your brain from the inside out. It's something that Destiny has been awful at doing. The most fun I ever had in Destiny, honestly, was collecting planetary materials with my friends to upgrade armor in Destiny 1. Funny, that was the only MMO-like mechanic in Destiny, and coincidentally, that stood out a lot to me while I was making this video. There's something about killing cows and rock crabs to get to a level 99 skill cape for strength that is far more satisfying than trying to level up the Sunshot Catalyst or grinding strikes for meaningless loot at the end of it. I don't know why. I would rather chop down the same trees every day for a month to level up my wood cutting so I can cut down the best tree in the game in order to sell them at the Grand Exchange to people that need it. In the meantime, I could possibly get a skill cape that I can flaunt forever. As grindy and tedious as that process is, the payoff is enormous. Destiny has nothing like that. And I guess as I'm saying this, I figured out the main issue. It just might be an overall loot problem. Loot sucks ass in Destiny. In RuneScape, I can spend months grinding to 99 attack. In that process, I can use better and cooler weapons, which you can't use unless you have a certain attack level. Can't use a rune skimmy without a certain attack. Can't use a dragon lawn sword without a certain attack level. As you're going up the attack levels, the weapons get better and better. As a result, I can kill higher level mobs, which drop better, more useful, and more valuable things that I can either use for something else or sell them to someone else. Again, economy. Economy in Destiny sucks because there really isn't one. Eventually, I can earn a skill cape, which is the epitome of any skill in the game, and flaunting that always, no matter what, is cool. On the other hand, Destiny has catered to casuals so much that there really aren't any heights to reach in Destiny as far as collecting and advancing skills. For starters, there are no skills in Destiny, and as far as collecting, there's nothing all that satisfying to collect because the game appeals to casuals so much that everyone has almost everything anyway. To further add salt to the wound, almost everything inevitably ends up collecting dust in the vault anyway because everything new is very strong when everyone is using it, so it ends up nerfed into oblivion anyway. At the end of it all, every pursuit in Destiny is almost a pointless one. Subpar loot where the best loot out of any given activity will with 100% certainty get nerfed into uselessness. Bungie puts so much attention towards in-game activities as opposed to in-game loot, while at the same time calling the game a looter shooter, while 90% of your loot ends up getting dismantled or taking up space in the vault to never be used again. What an unsatisfactory gameplay loop for a looter shooter MMO. So in conclusion, Destiny lacks the necessary social interactions and things to do to even be called an MMO, in my opinion. As to not end this video as just a complaint with no solution, let me offer you this. Let's say Bungie added something similar to skills, like weapon proficiency for example, on every category of weapon. So if you use hand cannons a lot and you get 60 hand cannon proficiency level, you can use certain special hand cannons, similar to a class specific weapon, which should make a return by the way. While at the same time adding skill capes or something that you can wear all the time that you get from leveling up a skill to level 99. Let's just say an additional slot next to a class item. The game wouldn't get as stale as often and finally give players a pursuit that is guaranteed and satisfying without all the RNG and nerfed and neutered loot that we often get. Having pursuits to show how much of a no-life you are, to flex on the lowly peasants in social spaces with dozens and dozens of people with eyes to see so they can gawk at your virgin prestige is what MMOs are all about. But that's just my opinion though. I could be completely wrong. That alone seems more like an MMO to me, but I guess we can just wait for the next raid weapon that'll get nerfed as soon as people get it, and I guess that's all the fun we're allowed to have in Destiny from time to time. Anyway, see you in the next one. Peace.